What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We got a huge 15-game MLB slate to talk about for Tuesday, August 21st. We're going to get right into it after I quick talk about Osmo.com. You can check out all of our premium content under the premium tab. We've got NFL season-long subscriptions, monthly, bunch of different options for different sports, and more to come. Pretty exciting time for us. And we've got NFL coming up in a couple weeks, so let's make some money. Play some NFL or NHL, NBA, whatever you desire to play. We'll have spotlight pitchers, hitters, and stacks out for the slate, of course. Osmo will be doing his top stack article, being it is a Tuesday. We'll have the live stream with myself and Josh, and then we'll also be doing the strategy video in the morning. So a lot of me and Josh you'll be seeing. Let's start talking about this. This is a really fun slate. Tons of different ways to go, like just pitching and hitting, and seemingly every game. There's only a few games, maybe like 2 or 3 games that I don't really want any exposure to, or maybe minimal exposure to. Like, I could see myself playing stacks or pitchers from almost every game here, so should be fun to talk about. You'll hear me mention a lot of different pitchers, especially, and then just gonna have to kind of rake through this slate as it goes on before we get to lock, because there is a lot to get into, and I only have a few minutes about each game on this. So tune into the strategy video and the live stream for more information. All right, Atlanta and Pittsburgh. We've got Julio Teheran against Ivan Nova. This is kind of one of those games where I don't really love it, and you got to be super picky on a 15-gamer unless you're playing like 500 lineups for some reason. So this game is very warm. Actually, it just switched to Kevin Gausman. So interesting. He was scratched on Monday, but either way, if it's Gausman or Teheran, not crazy about either guy going into Pittsburgh on this huge slate. And then Nova on the other side for 6,300 just really has issues with lefties. So I think it's a really fun Freddie Freeman and Nick Markakis and Ozzie Albies spot. But I don't think the Braves are one of my favorite stacks on the night. So I'll just leave this game as is. We don't know exactly who's going for Atlanta just yet, but probably not going to be on either one of them, and then certainly not on Nova. Philadelphia and Washington, Vince Velasquez going up against Tanner Roark. Velasquez is someone who, he's very capable of having good starts. I don't see this as being one of them. It is very, very humid in D.C. Some weather issues in this one. There were some weather concerns in Atlanta and Philadelphia, or Atlanta and Pittsburgh as well. So keep an eye on both of those. But if this one goes pretty predictable, I'm going to be on the Nats once again. Love Harper and Soto, of course, 2 of my favorite plays here. And then Daniel Murphy hitting a little bit better as of late. Anthony Rendon, I don't mind righty-righty either. And then Trey Turner for 4,800. So the Nats are going to be a stack I go to quite often, provided the weather looks at least okay to play. Roark on the other side is 7,700. Kind of an avoid spot for me. Both Roark and the Philadelphia bats, maybe outside of Rhys Hoskins. Roark is actually striking out less righties this year, giving up more hard contact to them. And then against lefties, he's been pretty good, like under 25% hard contact against lefties. That almost seems wrong, but that's what I'm looking at on Fangraphs. So kind of snuck under the radar how solid Roark has been against lefties in terms of both strikeouts and limiting hard hits. A lot of lefties in the top of this Philadelphia lineup. So not a big Tanner Roark guy, but someone I do respect. He's not just an auto stack against. So probably just Rhys Hoskins here for 4,600. Baltimore and Toronto. Dylan Bundy going up against Sam Gaviglio. Bundy 7,500. Man, I should be banned from talking about Bundy because I've been wrong in some big ways with Bundy a couple times. So 7,500 is a little bit easier for me to decide here. I don't think I want too much Bundy, a 5 total against him. In Toronto, I would assume they close the roof for this game. Just looks like bad weather here as well. But looking at the Toronto lineup, like, I don't really think I'm going to be getting to a full stack. Smoke is one of my favorites, and as is Morales here, but both first base eligible only on DraftKings, so it makes it kind of tough for me to get to a stack. I like power lefties against Bundy, so Granderson makes some sense for 4,300, but just kind of avoiding Dylan Bundy all around here and avoiding most of the Toronto bats. Sam Gaviglio, 6,800. I would guess he's going to be some sort of popular. I really want to see how popular we expect him to be in the morning. So we'll have that ownership in the morning, and if he's anything over like 10%, he's someone I'm probably going to just cross off just because super volatile. You've got the Orioles, who have been much better against righties, surprisingly. One of the best teams in the league over the last month against righties, judging by WRC Plus and ISO. They got speed in that lineup too, with VR mostly. Adam Jones has stolen a few bases this season. There is some potential for stolen bases here against Gaviglio, and I don't really like Gaviglio if he's going to be chalk. So I'm assuming he's going to be, and that's going to be probably a cross-off for me. Maybe some VR, maybe some Mullins up top for Baltimore. But on a 15-game slate, I'm still not crazy about stacking the good old Orioles. Cleveland and Boston. Shane Bieber going up against Nathan Eovaldi. Bieber is 7,100 here in Fenway. Not going to him. I just don't see a reason to do it on a 15-gamer. And I love Benintendi. I love Moreland. Anytime Mookie Betts is on the slate, he's pretty much in play for me, as is JD Martinez. So those top 4 make it really easy for me to get to a Boston stack, and then I do like some cheap pitchers, so I don't think I'm going to have too tough of a time trying to fill in with some Red Sox stacks. And Bieber gives up a ton of hard contact, especially to lefties. So Benintendi and Moreland really sticking out to me as really awesome plays. Eovaldi on the other side. I'm avoiding Eovaldi here for 8K. There's just so many options. I'm looking for pretty much anything that's going to make me not want to play someone, because I think there are legitimately like 12, 13 viable pitchers on this slate, and I'd rather not have one that's going up against Cleveland in a good park, a good hitter's park, I should say. So Jose Ramirez and Lindor, mostly Jose Ramirez is going to be the extent of my Cleveland exposure. I do respect Eovaldi in that Boston bullpen to some extent. So mostly just Boston bats for me here. San Francisco and New York Mets. Chris Stratton going up against Steven Matz. I'm not on Stratton. I'm not on the Mets. I don't see anything super interesting there. As far as Mets stacks, I think that Wilmer Flores is fine as a one-off. I actually have him as an above-average hitter against righties this year, 37% hard hit rate, 203 ISO against righties for Flores this year. So not just a lefty masher. I know people love to play him against lefties, but I actually think it's an okay spot. Stratton gives up quite a bit of hard contact to righties. So Matt's on the other side, 6,200. I would want to play Matz here, but when blowing out to left, Matz just does not miss any bats. I honestly, it's a shock to me that he keeps surviving. And he puts up the DK points, so I can't really argue with that. I know like chase rate and all that isn't everything, but man, he just does not grade out as the type of pitcher I want to use. Even for 6,200, I think I like 3 or 4 guys ahead of him. So I think I will play some Buster Posey and Andrew McCutchen, and especially Longoria for 3,500. I like that price. So maybe some mini stacks against Mats, but again, I don't really want to stack a bad team on a 15-game slate, or at least be super heavy on them. So just a few Giants bats I'll cherry pick, and then Flores on the other side for the Mets. Yankees and Marlins, we've got Masahiro Tanaka going up against Pablo Lopez. Tanaka is firmly in play for me, looks really good, missing a ton of bats. and gets a Marlins team that's very lackluster with no Justin Bohr. They just don't really have much power at all. Tanaka looks to be close to the top of his game, if not at the top of his game. I'm worried about his pitch count a little bit, which is super nitpicky, but only 92 pitches, 96, 97 in his last few starts. I'd like to see him get more than that, but he is significantly cheaper than a guy like Blake Snell or Patrick Corbin, so I will have a bunch of Tanaka, but I don't know that he's the highest upside option on the slate. In fact, I don't think he is, but definitely a really good chance to get you 25 DK points, which would be more than enough. Pablo Lopez, 5,100. I like him a lot as a pitcher. The problem is this Yankees lineup looks tough, even without Judge and Sanchez in it. They've still held their own. It's a good park. Lopez is really good at getting ground balls, so I think he's got a pretty decent chance to survive here. Like, I'm not just firing up Yankee stacks. Wind blowing in for Lopez, and he's 5,100, so definitely some interest in Lopez for me. I don't know that I'm going to need to have a ton of exposure to him just because there's a handful of options down here, but certainly someone I'm going to be digging into more, and I'm not crazy about the Yankees bats. I don't even really want to pick out any that I want to play here because I do respect Lopez quite a bit. Cubs and Tigers, Kyle Hendricks going up against Jordan Zimmerman. Hendricks is just an overprice for me at 8,600. I know he's a big favorite, but wind blowing out in Detroit, not a bad hitter's park at all. And, man, it's just kind of an avoid for me. So I know Hendricks has looked good in some starts this year. I know he's a good real-life pitcher, but I don't really think I need to do it on this slate for 8,600, even against a bad Detroit team. Jordan Zimmerman is 6,500. I have no issue taking like an Anthony Rizzo. I like him in that cleanup spot, or Kyle Schwarber. Zimmerman does struggle mightily with hard contact, and just a 20% K rate on the season for him. So no issue playing Cubs bats. Those two guys I mentioned, Rizzo, Schwarber. David Bodie is only 3,400, and then I like Jason Hayward for 38 as well. Baez down to 4,700, still with dual position eligibility, so at a price I'm more comfortable with to play Javi Baez. Kansas City and Tampa Bay, Glenn Sparkman going up against Blake Snell, Josh's guy, Glenn Sparkman. He loves that name for him. He's 4,400, so there's definitely a case to be made for Sparkman on this slate because you've got Snell and Tanaka and Corbin, some expensive guys that you may want to pay up for. I mean, I want to pay up for them. He threw 75 pitches in his last start against the Blue Jays. He's going to be in a good park and going up against a Tampa team that doesn't have the most power. I mean, I don't think they're just a team that's a pushover, but you're looking for 5 innings out of Sparkman here, and I think he can get you that if he's able to get 80, 85 pitches, which, judging by his pitch count last game, I think he should be able to do that as long as he avoids an early disaster. So Sparkman, if you're looking to punt, I think he is a perfectly fine punt. He's got some of the things I'm looking for, and he allows you to get a ton of bats. So Snell on the other side is 11.5. Snell is one of my favorite pitchers to watch, and I think he is definitely in play for 11.5. So pitch count for him is really the only issue I have since coming back from the DL. 59 pitches, so that's fine. 47 in his second start, which kind of a red flag. Like, he was pitching fine in that game, got pulled. I don't remember what exactly happened, but then 76 in his last start, so that's a big jump. If I knew he could get to like 90 here, I would just, like, he would be my most exposed pitcher. I wouldn't even think about it for 11.5. I don't know that he can get to 90 or that Tampa even wants him to get to 90. So that's my only issue with Snell. The matchup is phenomenal against Kansas City. Over the last month against lefties, the Royals have a near 24% K rate. That's top five, or bottom five, depending on how you look at it. A .089 ISO, a 72 WRC plus, just a 307 on base percentage. They just can't really get these pitchers out of games. And Snell's a guy that, similar to Corbin, where he may not be always the most efficient, but he's a guy that, like, you could see after 5 innings and he's thrown 85 pitches, and he's got 8 or 9 strikeouts. Like, that would not shock me at all. So I'm on him here for 11.5. I hope that price and the pitch count gets some people off of him, and I hope we get him at somewhat low ownership, which may be wishful thinking because Kansas City just has a 2.8 run total. So Vegas expects Snell to pitch well and pitch pretty long, I would assume. Minnesota and Chicago, the White Sox. Jose Barrios is 10-9, coming off a few pretty rough starts. He's had a tough schedule, so I'm kind of writing off his recent struggles, and Barrios is a guy I'm certainly going to look to here. He doesn't really have many issues with pitch counts. Like, even in bad starts, he's getting up around 100 or over 100, sometimes even 110 pitches, and that's really valuable when you're splitting hairs up here. White Sox striking out as much as anyone over the last month. They're just not a good club, and Barrios looks healthy to me, so I'm in on him as well. It's going to be really tough to parse out who I want to have the most exposure to between Tanaka, Barrios, Corbin, and Snell. But Barrios, I think right now I have him at number 3. I think I would have Corbin last, despite how good he looks. But anyways, we'll get to Corbin in a second. White Sox, Michael Kepich going for the Sox. So this guy is making his first start this season, 22-year-old. Just looking at, I just did a quick look at him and on Baseball Reference, and he looks like he definitely belongs in the majors. You just look at his ability to miss bats, go deep, rack up strikeouts in his last 4 starts, 8, 9, 9, and 9 strikeouts in his last 4, which is good in itself. And you look at the swinging strike rate, it's above 15 in all of those. Like, this guy clearly belongs in the MLB, so I'm not just writing him off because of the $7,600 price tag. Certainly a little bit overpriced for a guy making his first start, but someone that I'm going to look into. If he's going to be unowned because of the near 5 total against him, then I definitely have some GPP interest in him because he's someone who is fully stretched out. Reds and Brewers, we've got Saul Romano going up against Junior Guerra. Romano is 4,800, 0 interest in him. He looked awful last time out. He is awful in my opinion. He's gone back to being Saul Romano, just massive struggles with lefties. Christian Yelich, Mike Moustakas, Travis Shaw, 3 of my favorite plays on the entire slate. The ball is going to be put in play against Romano, and that's the most important thing. Wind blowing out to right, so good for the lefty pull power. Man, I love the Brewers. They're a top 5 stack for me for sure. Probably closer to top 3. I'm going to have a ton of Brewers exposure. I expect them to be popular. Guerra on the other side, 6,700 for him. I don't really think I'm going to have much Guerra. He just doesn't look all that great to me. He does pitch a lot better at home. So there may be something with those home road splits. If you just look at like his good starts, just DraftKings points or whatever, like if you just look at results, like innings pitched and strikeouts, pretty much all of his big starts have come at home. And so these are some of the biggest home road splits I've seen for any pitcher this year. And I don't know. I mean, he's going to have run support. There's definitely a case to be made for Guerra. Like, he just doesn't look that great to me. And I try not to bring too much of home road splits into my analysis just because I think there is a lot of noise around it. But when a guy is this big of splits, like, it's tough to not at least give it a look and see why that might be a case. So let's go to the next game. San Diego and Colorado. Robbie Erlin and Tyler Anderson. This is in Coors Field. Huge total, 10.5. Probably going to be closer to 11 by the time you're listening to this. No interest in Erlin, of course. Colorado against a lefty in Coors has been money. They're one of the best teams against lefties. And that's going to happen when you've got Arenado, Story, LeMahieu. I like Ian Desmond a lot as well, and then Iannetta. Coors should be owned, especially on the Rocky side. I mean, I love them. I don't think their ownership's going to be out of hand because we do have some popular pitchers up top, and their prices are, pretty high. Story and Arenado, $5,700 and $5,800. Anderson, $6,900. He's in Coors. He's going to go under-owned as a result, and that's why I like Tyler Anderson tonight. Just a really good pitcher, in my opinion. Misses bats, does pretty much the same in Coors as he does outside of Coors, maybe even a little bit better in Coors. And this San Diego lineup just has so many strikeouts. You've got Will Myers, over 30% K rate. Austin Hedges, if he's in there. Spangenberg, if he's in there, 29%. Like, there are just a ton of strikeouts to be had. Lots and lots of swing and miss in this San Diego lineup. So Anderson, hoping, is low owned, and I have no problem playing him for under 7K. Angels and Diamondbacks. Felix Pena, $7,300 against Patrick Corbin, who is near 12K. So Pena, we had the good Pena start finally against the Padres. This is going to be much, much tougher. Despite the humidor, this is a big park upgrade from Petco to Arizona. I don't know the stadium name. It's escaping me right now. But anyways, I'm not going to Pena here. I think he's a little overpriced, and too many lefties and just good hitters in this Diamondbacks team. So I actually love Peralta. I love Eduardo Escobar here. Lefty power against Pena is a thing, and I could even go 2 through 5 with Pollock and Goldschmidt in there from the right side. Just two really good hitters, can hit righties, can hit lefties, and I think Pena's going to have a tough time getting lefties out, at least at this point in his career. Corbin is 11-9 on DraftKings. You just look at his plate discipline stuff, like over the last however many starts you want it, like 10 starts, 12 starts. You're just seeing numbers in the mid and upper teens for swinging strikes. Chase rate is out of control. It just looks like he is at the top of his game. The results look awesome. At least 8 strikeouts in each of his last 5 starts. And he's not even going over 100 pitches that often either, which is really impressive. Or he'll get to 102. Like, it's not like he's Trevor Bauer and he's going 120 at times. Like, he's doing this in like 6 and 7 innings at most. Rarely goes past 7 innings. So I like Corbin here. Again, it's going to be tough to try to figure out who is the top option, and I'm probably just going to go with whoever is the least owned at 10K and above, because I think they all have a case to be the night's top pitcher. So no Angels bats here for me is what I'm trying to say, and definitely some Corbin depending on what our ownership says tomorrow morning. All right, Rangers and A's. Ariel Jurado against Brett Anderson. Let's get Anderson out of the way here. Not interested in him for $5,700. It's a decent price, but just doesn't miss any bats. And if you miss bats against Texas, you can be really successful. If you don't, you might have a tough time even in that. Even in O.co, it's still Texas has enough power to get the ball out with Gallo in there, and I have Profar as being a really good hitter against lefties. Adrian Beltre, whatever you think of him, but Andrews also in there, so not a super easy matchup for Anderson as a guy who has just a 6.4% swinging strike rate, under 12% K rate on the season. Jurado, I want to load up against. He's much worse than Anderson. Jurado just doesn't have anything, in my opinion. So if he's pitching, and there's no total out for this game, so I don't know if he is pitching, but if he is, then I want all of the Oakland bats. Oakland is a top 5 stack for me. It's really all the usual guys, 2 through 5, from Chapman to Lowry, Davis, Olsen. Love that team of 4 in GPPs. Cardinals and Dodgers. Daniel Ponce de Leon against Hyunjin Ryu. Ponce de Leon was our guy for one start earlier in the year, but he's not stretched out here. I don't think you're going to be seeing much more than 2 or 3 innings if things go well. So it's too bad we can't play our boy Ponce de Leon, but we will, or at least I will be playing some Dodgers bats. So Ponce de Leon, perfectly fine pitcher, but the Cardinals bullpen has the 4th highest xFIP over the last month among any bullpen in the MLB, and I just love the Dodgers. I mean, I think they're going to go somewhat overlooked on a 15-gamer, relatively overlooked. Just a 4.5 run total. I like those modest totals for very good teams because this is the team that, as you saw over the weekend, can just explode. It's just like home runs are like contagious for this team sometimes. So against righties, against lefties, it doesn't really matter. I still want Turner, Machado, Grant Dahl. I love in this spot. Muncy, if he's there, even if he's down in the order, he's 5K. So I don't think people will be on that, but I certainly will be playing some Max Muncy, which is insane to think about playing Max Muncy for 5K even like a couple months ago. But here we are, and I love the matchup for him. So I want to do more research on who's going to come in after Ponce de Leon, but I'll report back tomorrow morning on the strategy video with that. All right, last game of the night. We're finally there. Houston and Seattle. I believe it's going to be Colin McHugh against Mike Leake. McHugh is not stretched out. I don't love targeting against the Astros bullpen. 2nd lowest xFIP among any bullpen over the last month. They just have a bunch of quality arms in there. And not a good park anyways for Seattle. So assuming it's going to be McHugh, then a mixture of the Houston bullpen arms. I'm probably going to be off, pretty much anything in this game, but especially on the Seattle side. Leake is 6,600. He's just very, very good at getting ground balls and getting chases out of the zone, creating low-quality contact. And if we see Houston being chalky again, it's a pretty easy fade for me. Leake has kind of been a reverse splits guy for his career. He's sort of straightened that out this year for whatever reason. But I think we see some ownership on these Houston bats, and I don't really want to target against Leake all that much in Seattle. So outside of Seattle, a little bit different of a story, but here I don't think I'm going to on a 15-gamer. All right, that's going to do it. Went a little bit long on the night shift. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Good luck in your research. Check out Spotlight Hitters, Pitchers, and Stacks. Join us about 9 Eastern, a little after 9 Eastern for the strategy video. We'll have the live chat as always. Come in there with your questions or anything you find, and just come participate. We'll see you in the morning.